Hello and welcome to Planning by Design. In this video, we'll cover everything you need to know about planning enforcement notices and what to do if you receive one, including: I received a planning enforcement notice. What should I do? What is a planning enforcement notice and what does it mean? How much time do I have to respond to a planning enforcement notice? How much does a retrospective planning application or appeal cost? What are the chances of securing retrospective planning approval? Can I appeal a planning enforcement notice? What if retrospective planning permission and planning appeal are refused? Do you need advice or help with a planning enforcement notice? I received a planning enforcement notice. What should I do? If you have received a planning enforcement notice for a breach of planning, it is important to understand you are not alone. Around 15 to 20% of the applications we do are retrospective. 99% of enforcement notices are for developments that people were sure would be permitted development and therefore wouldn't need any permission, but unfortunately got it wrong. Usually it's because they have misunderstood the planning portal or were given bad advice from someone other than a chartered town planner. Common examples include architects, builders and estate agents who are not qualified and don't understand the complex and ever-changing planning laws. Unfortunately, whatever the reason, the current owner of the property is liable for any breach of planning, even as the result of poor advice or works carried out by a previous owner. You should seek advice as soon as possible from an RTPI-accredited town planner. They can advise on your options and the best course of action. What is a planning enforcement notice and what does it mean? A planning enforcement notice is a formal document issued by a local planning authority. It will detail the alleged breach of planning and specify a deadline to respond. Temporary stop notices may also be included in the enforcement notice and prohibit certain activities until the breach is remedied. If construction is not complete, you may be forced to cease work, and if you have changed the use of land or property, you may be forced to stop using it as the new use until retrospective planning permission is approved. Failure to comply with an enforcement notice may result in legal action being taken. It is important to take a planning enforcement notice seriously and seek expert advice from a chartered town planner as soon as possible to avoid further enforcement action and consequences. How much time do I have to respond to a planning enforcement notice? Planning enforcements have a specific time limit to respond within, normally just 28 days from the date of the letter. If you need to submit a retrospective planning application, you also need to allow time to arrange the architect drawings and supporting evidence before the application can be submitted. So time is of the essence. Failure to respond within the given time frame can result in further legal action or penalties such as unlimited fines or even custodial sentences for breaches related to listed buildings. If you fail to comply with an enforcement notice, you can be tried in the magistrates or the Crown Court. How much does a retrospective planning application or appeal cost? To submit a retrospective planning application or appeal, you will need architect drawings to show the property before and after any changes. You will also need a planning or design and access statement to justify why, based on the relevant planning policies, retrospective planning permission should be approved. Depending on the nature of the breach, you may also need to submit additional supporting evidence to support your case. It is important to note that planning approval can never be guaranteed. Just like going to court, you could be innocent and still found guilty. So it is vital to put forward a strong case. The cost is dependent on the project type, scale, complexity, and what is specifically required for your case. However, you can get a free instant estimate for most project types via our online cost calculator at planning-by-design.co.uk/cost-calculator. What are the chances of securing retrospective planning approval? Unfortunately, there is a huge difference between knowing planning permission is required and knowing whether planning permission is likely to be approved or not. One of the most challenging things about retrospective planning applications is that we can't advise you on what you should do to meet the required policies. Instead, we can only justify to the best of our ability why we feel what you have done meets the relevant policies and therefore why retrospective planning permission should be approved. The trouble is, let's say for example you have built something that does not meet the required planning and design policies. It's not simply a case of amending a drawing and resubmitting to the council, as we would with an application for a proposed development. Another consideration is that there may be further constraints, objections or complaints, which could make securing retrospective approval much more difficult. In order for us to be able to give you an indication of whether a retrospective application is feasible and the likelihood of success, We can conduct a planning appraisal to give you the answers you need within a day. The best case scenario is that retrospective planning approval is feasible, providing a strong application is submitted to demonstrate how it meets the required planning policies and should therefore be approved. However, if your application has no chance of success, we will tell you before you invest more time and money on something that will likely be refused. Ultimately, if you still wish to try, no matter how unlikely it is to be approved, we can submit the strongest possible application. If it is refused, there will still be the option of appeal, subject to the reasons for refusal. Can I appeal a planning enforcement notice? Yes, if we believe the enforcement notice was issued unjustly or is based on incorrect information, you may have grounds for an appeal. If the appeal is won, you would not need to put the property back to its original state or restore it to its original use. Appeals would be determined by the planning inspectorate rather than your local council to ensure the assessment is impartial and unbiased. What if retrospective planning permission and planning appeal are refused? If you are unable to secure retrospective planning approval and subsequently lose an appeal, you are fundamentally left with two options. Comply with the enforcement order. This is the worst-case scenario in which you may be forced to restore the property to its original state and use. If you built something, you would be forced to demolish it, resulting in significant financial loss. If you change the use of land or a building, you would be forced to change it back, which could be devastating for a business. Seek a judicial review. If you disagree with the decision and believe it is wrong based on legal reasons, another option is to request a judicial review in the High Court. This may not be a feasible choice for many individuals due to the significant expenses associated with legal assistance and court fees. Nonetheless, in cases of substantial projects with a compelling argument, taking the chance and bearing the costs could be worthwhile. Do you need advice or help with a planning enforcement notice? If you need advice regarding a retrospective planning issue or enforcement notice, contact us at planning-by-design.co.uk for a free, no-obligation consultation. Assuming it is feasible to appeal or secure retrospective planning approval for your project, our chartered architects and chartered town planners can help with everything you require. Once instructed, we can take over all communications with the enforcement officer. Often this stops any further enforcement action until the retrospective application or appeal has been determined. Thanks for watching. We hope this video on planning enforcement notices has been enlightening for you. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel for more insightful content, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on our upcoming videos. We value your thoughts and questions, so feel free to share them in the comments below. Your feedback drives us to create more content tailored to your needs. Thanks for watching, and until next time, happy developing.